Hi everyone, Sarah Pacaro with Rewrite Your Life, and I'm going to talk to you today about childhood emotional neglect. If you've been in a toxic and unhealthy relationship, a relationship with a narcissist, you may feel that sometimes you feel like you are the narcissist because you're going crazy and they're crazy, and there are a lot of commonalities and similarities, and those are in the childhood emotional neglect. We did not get to be the adults that we are today without having gone through childhood. I was watching my daughter play last night in her little pool and swim and grab the little squirty thing and shoot up the water, and I thought, oh my gosh, she's just so present with herself. She's so happy. She's so herself. And looking back on my childhood, I don't remember that at all. Yeah, of course I remember the really impactful and negative things, but I just don't remember a lot of the happy times. But obviously I had them, and when we become adults and we end up in toxic and unhealthy relationships, what we feel inside is projected outward, and it shows and it develops in this relationship with the narcissist. So there are a lot of commonalities, and it does always go back to our childhood, because like I said, we did not get to be adults without having been children first. So there are some commonalities. I'm going to talk to you guys today about the differences, the varieties of childhood and emotional neglect. I can't say that word for some reason. So there's a physical presence. So was one or more of your parents present physically enough? So many people that I work with, maybe their dad was gone all the time. Then there's different love languages, and sometimes parents are gone because their love language is acts of service, and so they're constantly doing things for you and providing for you in a way that keeps a roof over your head or food on your table, or they pay for dance lessons or soccer practice, whatever it is, but they're not there physically enough. They're not present physically enough for your emotional needs to be met. My love language is quality of time. So if I'm not spending quality of time with you, but you're out doing all these things that were present in both of my past narcissistic relationships, I don't feel loved and I don't feel connected, and that makes me feel that I'm not enough. I'm not worthy of you spending your quality of time with me. So that is one aspect to look at in your childhood. And when it comes to childhood emotional neglect, is the physical presence. Was one or both of your parents physically present enough as you were growing up to meet your needs for supervision, attention, response? A lot of people that I work with were, had good childhoods. They weren't physically abused or anything like that, but they were latchkey kids. Their parents were always gone. They were always working, and then when they were home on the weekend, they really didn't get to spend quality time with them because they were busy doing housework stuff. So when most people hear the term childhood emotional neglect, obviously the first thing you think of is abuse. That's not exactly what it is. It can refer to a latchkey kid, or someone who sat at home or was unattended too much, or the parents, I work with a lot of women whose mothers were, didn't feel that they could make enough money, so they were constantly looking for a boyfriend or a husband, and they were spending more time with that boyfriend or husband than they were with them as a child. And emotional neglect as a child can come from this as well. So it's not always easy to see or remember because it's not always really concrete things. So how this results is when you were young, you learn to be very independent. Maybe you're hyper competent. You learn not to need anyone. You learn to just get it on your own, that it's not okay to ask for help from anyone, because and as an adult you think, oh my gosh, I'm independent. Look at me. I can do all these things on my own. But that takes you away from connecting with others in a really true, deep, meaningful way. The second one is structure and consequences. So if your parents enforce rules or responsibilities in your home, did you have structure? Did you have boundaries? And if you exceeded those or stepped out of those, were there consequences, or were you free to just do whatever you want? Were your parents there to say, hey, did you do your homework? Did you do your chores? What about mealtime, bedtime, or were you just free? We thrive off having structure, and then as adults, These are boundaries that we set with people. And so many people don't have boundaries, don't have healthy boundaries. And if you've been in a relationship with a narcissist or toxic and unhealthy person, you know that your boundaries are constantly walked all over. And there's no consequence that you set for that person crossing that boundary because that was not established in your childhood when you were younger. So did your parents give you rewards or consequences based on your behaviors and choices? This shows up in our adult lives. If your household was too unrestricted, too unstructured, too unpredictable, or too inattentive, you may have been left just to your own devices to kind of figure things out on your own. And chances are that you now blame yourself for all of this. And this is showing up in your adult life that in some way, shape, or form, you are weak or you are defective. So you guys, this all goes back to our childhood. And we may not think like, oh my gosh, my adult life has anything to do with this, but it has everything to do with it. And the next thing you want to take a look at is observation and feedback. Did your parents see you? Or were they, I mean, now it's more prevalent for parents to be like this on their phone constantly. Yeah, sounds good. Or even worse, for us to stick a phone in front of our child's face and allow them to start doing the same thing. Did your parents see you? Did they notice you? Did they share their observations with you and not just, oh yeah, that was great, honey. But did they say, wow, you gave that your best effort. I saw that. Amazing effort. Children are not self-aware. They pick up everything from their parents. And so it's this generational trauma that we experience that in adulthood leads us to being in toxic and unhealthy relationships. So you learn who you are by looking in your parents' eyes and seeing yourselves reflected there. So if your parents did not look at you and see you, acknowledge you, praise you, you start to feel that there's something inherently wrong with you. And that shows up in who you choose as a partner as an adult. What your preferences are, what your abilities are, your weaknesses, your challenges, your talents, and all your needs. All of this is such important information for you to have about yourself. And if you've been in a toxic and unhealthy relationship, you see this when you were launched into adulthood with not enough of this, not being seen, not being heard, appreciated, understood, accepted. And then you end up getting in a relationship with a narcissist who has all those things. They don't see you, appreciate you, hear you, accept you. And not knowing yourself well enough in adulthood causes this dysfunction and inability to make good choices for yourself. Insert codependency. You may need others to tell you, I don't know, I can't, I'm indecisive, I don't know. You need others to validate you and help you make these choices because you feel that any choice you make is going to be wrong, or you choose the wrong job, you choose the wrong partner, you simply end up being this, I'm so easygoing, I go with the flow type of person instead of making choices for yourself. So this is where that childhood emotional neglect has an impact in your adult life. When people ask you what you want, sometimes it's something as simple as going to a restaurant and looking at the menu and going, I have no, what should I get? And having someone else make that simple choice for you. You're not aware of yourself. You don't ask your body, what is it that you want and need today? And you start to look for it outside of yourself. You find it difficult to pursue what you really want to pursue, or say, I don't even know who I am. And you end up in like a job that may pay the bills, but you're not fulfilled. You don't like it. You end up in a relationship that you're same thing. You're not fulfilled. You don't like it, but you feel stuck in it. The next one you want to look at in childhood and emotional neglect is quality of love. So there's different types of love. And everything comes with a different quality. It's a range. Just like with narcissism, there's extreme and then there's mild. There's always a range and a different amount of quality. So the quality of love that you had in your childhood, was it a true depth, a true quality that you felt your parents loved you? Loved you for you. Not loved you if you cleaned your room. Not loved you if you did the dishes. Not loved you if you were a good girl, if you got straight A's, whatever it was. Those are conditions. Did you feel that you were loved unconditionally? Whether you made a mistake, whether you messed up, whether you did an amazing job, were you praised for that? And this one is really difficult because it's painful to hear. My parents loved me conditionally. My parents loved me if I got straight A's, if I went to college right out of high school, if I did what I was supposed to do, if I got married. if I had a baby, all those things. The reality is it can be really, really difficult to look at this emotional childhood neglect, especially when it comes to love and feeling like if they were honest with you, if they were real with you, or did your parents simply tell you things? So this is a difficult one. You don't see it. You don't see it when you're going through it. You don't see it when you're a child. There's no 5 or 8-year-old walking around going, hey, Mom, that's conditional love. You love me if I clean my room. No. We simply have no idea, no awareness of it. But we have this deep down intuition, gut feeling that when we are emotionally neglected, it just feels something is off. That's why kids throw tantrums, and then we feel like we're told from our parents, you need to do this. Well, I don't want to do that. And then we're told, I know what's better for you than you do. And that's what takes us off this path of listening to ourselves and our intuition. Then obviously, it just snowballs into adulthood. And then the next one is our feelings. Did your parents respond enough to your feelings, or did they simply, I'm too busy, get out of here? Or did they act like your emotions mattered? Or were they too busy for that? Did they not have time for it? It was to be seen and not heard. You're expressing your feelings and they're not hearing them. That is a form of childhood emotional neglect. I feel like I keep messing that word up. And this develops because everything in your childhood you were trying to make meaning of. Where do I fit in? How do I belong? Am I enough? Do I matter? Is it conditional, unconditional? Am I loved? And these are not things that even parents, they're not setting out every day, waking up going, how can I mess up my kid today? No parent does that. Even toxic and unhealthy parents, even narcissistic parents don't wake up and say, how can I mess up my kid today? They're messed up inside, and it's just a projection of how they feel about themselves, but then it in turn messes you up. So that's generational trauma because of this childhood emotional neglect. A parent's job, obviously, they wear many, many, many hats. They're working, they've got to provide, they've got to keep the house up, do all these things. But it feels like they don't have the bandwidth to, tune into your emotional needs, feelings. And in this, we feel invalidated, we feel disconnected. And so we find other forms of connection outside of ourselves. Our parents don't teach us how to tune into yourself, how to know that you matter, you belong. They don't very rarely teach you that what you're feeling is okay. And let's ask ourselves why you're feeling that way. What's going on? It's okay to feel what you feel. Have you ever seen a parent in a grocery store where their kid's throwing a tantrum because they're not getting the candy bar that I have no idea why they place right by the checkout, because that's right where all the meltdowns happen? Have you ever seen a parent say, honey, you're not getting that candy bar, and it's okay to feel how you feel? Or do you see the parent, come on, let's go. No, I told you you're not getting that candy bar, because they've got their groceries and they're trying to check out and they've got to get going. They're going to be late for this next thing. All of this stuff happens inevitably. It just happens, and they don't do it intentionally. They're trying to help you. They're trying to get you to maybe soccer practice on time or whatever it is. But it's these little experiences that we develop these emotional beliefs about our world that teach us how to navigate our emotions. Okay, I don't matter. My mom's not stopping to ask me, why is it that you're throwing a tantrum about not getting this candy bar? My mom's yelling at me going, come on, I'm sick of this shit. Let's go. And so we start to learn to navigate our relationships through that lens, and this impacts our relationships as an adult. So childhood emotional neglect is not always something that our parents set out and say, I'm going to emotionally neglect you, but it is always something that impacts our relationships later on. We grow up and then we undervalue, we undermine our own feelings. That intuition, that gut feeling that we have, we often avoid. That's why if you've been with a narcissist, you saw the signs, you saw the red flags, and you ignored them. Why? Because for so long you have programmed to ignore your intuition, and you feel ashamed oftentimes for having those feelings. It's that deep level of toxic shame, and you may feel like you're blind to these emotions as your parents were blind to these emotions, and you focus too much. Like people say, they're just hyper vigilant on things now, or they're just over planners, or they focus on these concrete things, because deep down what's happened is that you become deeply uncomfortable with intense feelings, whether it's your deep, intense feelings or another person's deep, intense feelings, and then you wall yourself off. You build up this wall and you block yourself off from this. And then that leaves you feeling empty, feeling numb, and at times causes you to question yourself. I'm somehow different. I'm flawed. And you're just simply unschooled on feeling. Maybe you find friendships with other people confusing, or you find them perplexing, and you feel that you have a difficult time really connecting with people on a true, authentic, vulnerable level. So these are all signs of childhood emotional neglect. And like I said, I can't guarantee it, but I want to say your parents did not wake up every day and say, how can I mess up my child today? But it's just simply what happens, and all of us are carrying these wounds around inside of us, and they show up in our relationships. They express themselves in our adult relationships. And if you've been with a narcissistic person, all of these are there. Everyone that I work with has these, and that's what we work on healing from within. Healing those childhood wounds through rapid transformational therapy and deep childhood inquiry. So if that is someone, or you yourself or someone that you know has experienced this, it's not something that most therapists tackle. You go to a traditional therapist and they talk about, how are you doing today? How are you doing this week? And you talk about this outward, external stuff. You talk about the symptoms. You don't get to the root of the problem. And that's where the difference is. You've got to get to the deep, deep, deep inner work, the root of the problem, and it's always linked back to experiences you had in childhood. And these examples I just shared of childhood emotional neglect. So if this is you or anybody that you know and you are really looking for a way to heal, even if you've been with another therapist before, but you find like, yeah, it's helpful and I really like them, and they give me all these tools and these things to try and this breath work, and it's really good. They help keep me grounded. All that is fantastic. But until you go deep within, there's still going to be something missing. So please reach out, connect to me if that is what you're looking for, to really go within, to heal from a deeper, more profound level. That's what I do as a rapid transformational therapist, and what I would love to connect with you on. And this is not mean to make you feel bad about your childhood or your parents, but just to bring insight and awareness to maybe what you're going through today.